All right, I got the champ, Aljamain Sterling here, fresh off of his win over TJ Dillashaw. Aljo, when did you get back in the States, man? Did you just get back the last couple of days, right?
I got back yesterday.
Gotcha. How was a little bit of time to celebrate there?
Not enough. We were in Dubai trying to figure out how to extend the trip, but the price tag went up. Unfortunately, the UFC booked me a business class seat, but there's like two levels. You could book one called Business Flex, and then the other one's just business. Business Flex, free changes of like the dates and everything, no charge. Business, you can't do that. They try to charge me $1,100 to change it, and I wasn't going to do it. Then I met a sponsor, potential sponsor, and they offered to do it just to have me stay out there for an event. And then I went to go change my fiance's, then hers, because it was free. I bought her Business Flex, and it went from hers being free to the last, because we were like the 11th hour, and I went to try to change it, and then hers went up to $3,200. And then mine went up to $3,200 as well when I reached back out to the UFC travel team, and they said the price just doubled. And I'm just like, I don't think it's meant to be. So we just came back home. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do all the things that we really, really want to do, like the sand dunes, the ATVs. Like, you don't get to do all that when you're just cutting weight.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Well, maybe they'll bring you back as a guest fighter or something, but you're back here. You're adjusted a little bit more to the time, I'm assuming, and you've had some time to kind of settle in and think about the performance. I guess what's your feeling now that you've had a little bit of time to digest it?
I guess my feeling is, I don't know. Honestly, I haven't really because I haven't watched it back yet by myself to really like take it all in to see really what I did. Like, I watched the highlights and whatnot, but it's not the same as like watching the event as a whole, from the walkout to watch the energy of the crowd, my opponent when they're getting their name announced, me getting my name announced, and I'm definitely happy, but I feel like I'm still living in a fairy tale land. Like life doesn't feel real. It's kind of crazy. Like I'm still perplexed that I fight in a cage for a living, and I'm still perplexed that I'm the king of the division, and all the history things that I've been doing is just like it feels so surreal. I just don't. I'm fortunate. I'm blessed, and like every day I forget. Like when I walk down the street, I still feel like I'm that kid from Uniondale and Roosevelt. That's like this, not tough guy, but you got to be tough in those neighborhoods and still mean mugging people kind of thing. And then when I see people staring at me, I still kind of get like on guard and on edge. And then I have to remind myself, like, dumb, like, you fight. People will probably recognize who you are. Relax yourself a little bit, bring your shoulders down, and don't pump up your chest so much. So it's just my mentality. So I'm still like processing it every day, that I wake up and I'm like, man, this is a crazy life. It's a good life. I'm blessed, and I'm just excited to see what life has in store for me for the rest of my career and life after my career.
Yeah, and do you think that will be something that eventually this will feel normal? This will feel like reality? Is there something out there perhaps that you like need some fulfillment in your champ status? Is there something on that regard, or do you think it's just maybe it's a good thing, right? Maybe it's the working recipe. You're staying kind of in that humble mindset. I guess, is that something that you would like to get acquainted to, or is it cool to kind of be living in a dream, so to speak?
I think it's cool to be living in a dream, because it's every day I wake up, man. I'm telling you, it's a blessing. It's like I look around the things I've accomplished and things I've been able to buy myself that I worked hard to earn, and it's like, man, life is really crazy. Life, you just never know what might happen for you, and I'm not just saying for myself, like for anybody, because it's all attainable for all of us if you put the right work in, the right sacrifices, and do the honest hard work. Like, good things can happen for anybody. So I think it helps me work harder. And I even tell my fiance, I'm like, I'm jet skiing in Dubai, and on the jet ski, no, was this Dubai? No, this was Abu Dhabi. I'm jet skiing in Abu Dhabi outside the hotel. And as I'm throttling this thing as fast as it can go, I'm doing 40 miles an hour, jumping up on these waves. The sunset is coming down, and it's like that golden hour, and I'm just looking out into the view and in the land and the horizon. And I'm like, this is a crazy life, and all I have to do is keep working hard, and I could do things like this forever. And that for me was like one of those moments that you take in, and I just felt a moment of like, and I'm not one to get emotional or anything, but it's a very, because like I said, man, I came up from humble beginnings. We didn't have a lot. My pops sold drugs. He made a way to make money for all of us, and the very little that we did have. So to be doing things like that was just like, who would have thought I would be in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai, doing any of this stuff with people that I love and care about, and it's all based on how hard you work. You get rewarded, and it's man, like I said, on a jet ski, feeling like DJ Khaled, and then just taking in that moment, like this is an insane life. Like work hard, play hard, and just enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Yeah. So when you got in there, would you say that this is maybe one of the more calmer feelings that you've had, or did that kind of that energy, that adrenaline just pick up as soon as it came time to step in there?
In the octagon?
Yeah, yeah. When it was time to fight.
Uh Man, I'm always nervous as hell. Always nervous going in there. The nerve factor never changes. The only time I was never nervous, where I was in the back room just warming up and it felt like I was just hitting pads on a regular day in the gym, was the one time that I got knocked out. And I learned from that. Like, you have to have those nerves. It keeps your alertness sharp. It keeps your reactions sharp and keeps you super dialed in your focus. Like, you're afraid and nervous of what could happen and what might happen. And you want to make sure that doesn't happen. And you want to be able to control as much as you could control. And the only way you could do that is having your senses, your human reaction senses at a heightened level, so that you could be so dialed in and hyper focused and not like overly like tense, but you want to be in this zone, the optimal zone that we have as athletes, so that you're just locked in. Everything's kind of tunnel vision. You could kind of tune everything out. And I don't want to say it's like a blur, but nothing else matters. It's literally like you're in a spotlight, and it's just you, your opponent, and a referee, and nothing else matters in life. Like for me, that moment with this fight, and even the last one, but with this fight in particular, when I'm in there locking eyes with TJ and we touch gloves and we step back, in my head, I'm like, I'm going to try to run through this guy as viciously as I can. And I made that conscious decision. I told Ray on the way out, I'm just still trying to figure out my approach. And it's all going to depend on TJ's energy when we come out. And I made up my mind in that decision right then and there. After we touched gloves, I was like, I don't care if he comes out aggressive, comes out forward. I'm not taking a step backwards, and I'm pushing this guy to oppose my will and get my takedown and buzz saw through him as best as I can. And fortunately for me, I think people can see in my demeanor that I was not going to be denied that night.
Yeah, I mean, you went out there and did that, and obviously, we'll get into it. I mean, there was a lot made about his shoulder and the injury and stuff. Was that anything you were aware of? Like, there were little clues, I think, like beforehand to us afterwards, like, oh, he didn't do the open workout. I guess DC had said on the broadcast that he had mentioned something to the commentators that indicated that he might have an issue. For you, I mean, was there a moment in that fight you noticed that there was something wrong, or did you not really even realize until afterwards?
I didn't know there was anything wrong until going until the end of the first round, when my coaches and the guys, they said, I think, I think something happened to his shoulder. And I think I might have asked him, like, really? Like, which one? They're like, I think he fucked it up. I think he fucked it up. Looking around, like, which one? Like, I have no idea. I'm looking at him. He walked back. They kind of were covering him. Like, I don't know what's going on. I think they said it was the left one, they think. And I was just focused on me. When I took him down off the kick, I make sure I like solidify position before advancing, because I know TJ's slippery and tough to hold down. Like, if you just take him down and you don't manage to control his legs, he's able to push off the shoulders. He's able to bring his knees to his chest and get small so that he can get up. And he's done that time and time again, where he doesn't really hang out on the ground too long with these guys. But I felt like once I took him down, not to rush like I did when I fought Jan the first time. Even though I was compromising that fight, like I took him down and I started throwing hammer fists and lost the position literally right away. So when I did that, I just had to remind myself like position before submission, and then control, advance, and then after that, make it nasty. Um, so I had no idea about his shoulder, and honestly, give this guy octopus legs, give him 8 arms. It really does not matter. Like that guy gets taken down in that position and lets me solidify control. That fight does not change. You end up in that position with anybody. For me, I think anyone who's trained with me, they know it's a bad position to be in. I've brought training partners in. I've trained with multiple guys from other places, and I, not to be cocky or anything, because I'm not like that, but I'm confident. And I can tell you one thing: the results are usually the same in those training sessions. So he can say whatever he wants about his shoulder and his built-in excuses. At the end of the day, the facts are the facts. My skill set and in that position with anybody, that's a bad night.
Yeah, and I mean, I almost kind of hate that this is like that this played out the way that it did, because I feel like you had proven a lot. Like you had got, you had doubters that said stuff to you about the Jan knee, about the Jan decision. Then you go out there and you do exactly what you would say you were going to do. But then there's this whole shoulder thing. So I guess for you, do you feel like TJ's decision to step in the cage that night, injured, like takes away from the respect that you deserve at all, or has?
Not for me. I mean, I fought injured multiple times. I mean, I've had a bad neck for my entire UFC career. Even while I was in college, my neck was jacked up. So we all make a conscious decision on whether or not we want to step in there. I've had injuries going into this fight as well outside of my neck that's been lingering since the Jan fight. And I made a conscious decision. I said, yo, I just need to get to the fight. If it tears in the fight, at least I know, one, I'm going to get paid. And at least I know I can get through the fight and deal with it after, where if you don't get paid, you get another surgery, you sit on the sideline, life sucks at that point. No one wants to deal with that. But at least if I can get paid, it takes away the sting. And at least if I can fight through the pain, I can get through it like any other thing, So it is what it is. Like we all make that decision, and none of us go into the cage 100%. And that's why when people like gamble and bet on fights, I think it's the craziest thing, because you don't know what anyone is dealing with. And it's situations like this, you just do not know, And for TJ not to do the open workout, not to be on embedded, I felt like he was hiding something. And I really felt like he was hiding, like him taking stuff again, like he did in his last fight with Cejudo. And they caught him with all those pills. Like who takes 20 different supplements? Like, what are you doing? Like, that don't even look right, bro. And he got caught. So it is what it is, man. People are going to make an excuse to try to take away from how good I actually am. Like, look at the performance. He said my striking was embarrassing. Did that look embarrassing? I don't think so. I think I outstruck him. I think my strikes were cleaner. I timed a catch on the kick perfectly, like I've been doing all training camp. Took him down in timely fashion. And my position, my control on top, I think was pretty nuts. And I think it showed that, yeah, when I take you down, I backpack you up. And I don't know, man. I think they just have a image of me from my first Jan fight. The new fans, the ones that follow my entire career or have gone back to watch my fights, they see that when I take people down, it's literally the same exact thing. Like, it doesn't change. So the one Jan fight where I looked awful, looked lethargic, swinging my dangly long arms really sillily, like just in a silly manner where it was just like all over the place, flailing around, getting tripped left and right. It looked like I sucked. And I come back and I beat Jan. They can't wrap their heads around it. Like, there's no way this guy's that good. There's no way he won that fight. That they have to grasp at straws to say, I lost a round in the first round based on strikes and aggression of the guy walking forward, where I'm like, now you guys can't count because I outstruck the guy. I outmaneuvered him on the feet. That's my octagon control. But because you're so pressed that you wanted Jan to win because you thought I sucked, you're trying to find any reason to discredit me. And now they're trying to discredit me again. And I really think it's because of the first Jan fight. I think that caused a kind of a waterfall effect. And I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm the champ. Ain't nothing they could do about it. And it sucks to suck. And I'm going to be here as long as I can. And that's really it, man. I mean, life's good. They can say whatever they want, but the facts are the facts. The resume speaks for itself. And if you still doubt, like, oh, TJ had one arm, you fought a disabled guy, shut up, man. Go look at the other fights. Look what he did with Sandhagen. Look what I did with Sandhagen. Look at all my other fights, man. It's just not even a comparison. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. And obviously you continue regardless. I mean, people can say whatever they want. You continue to march towards, racking up title defenses. And I guess for you, what do you think's next? I think Dana White bringing up Henry Cejudo at the post-fight press conference. It was funny. It was like Dana never really wanted to acknowledge Henry, but then all of a sudden he suggested that when somebody asked about your next fight. So I know our friend Ariel Helwani had said something about he was hearing that they were trying to set up you and Henry in Australia. I guess is that what you think's next, or do you think that Sean, given his performance, sneaks in here?
I'm not fighting till mid-year next year, so I don't know what anybody's talking about. You're gonna need to move me to get back into a training camp. So good luck with that. And that's my honest opinion. I earned my time off, so Henry could go kick rocks. And let me ask you. I mean, are you excited to see Sterling versus Cejudo? In your honest opinion?
Yeah, I would be. I think
no, you would be, but are you honestly most excited about that matchup for the next title shot at 135? Is that the biggest fight for you as a fan of the sport?
I think so. If I'm being honest with you, I think it is. I think Sean O'Malley, you mentioned earlier people weren't giving you the credit that you deserved. I think I didn't give Sean O'Malley the credit that he deserved, regardless of how that fight against Jan went last Saturday. So, I mean, on merit, I guess I would give it to Sean. But I guess, if you're talking biggest fight, which one do I think is going to draw? I think maybe Henry would have him beat.
Yeah. You're the first guy that I've heard say that.
Hey,
I don't even feel I want the biggest fight because I get pay-per-view points. The moment I lose a belt, I don't get pay-per-view points. So I want the biggest fight. And if it's Cejudo, I gladly oblige, but I don't think it's him. I really don't. I even feel like people would be more excited to see me fight Cheeto over Cejudo. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't see the numbers in the polls, so I have no idea. The UFC would know better than I would. So when we have that conversation, we'll figure it out. But it seems like as a whole, Sean just draws better than Cejudo. He hasn't fought in almost 3 years. I'm only pointing out the negatives. I mean, outside of his credentials, that's for a diehard. I would be excited about that fight. But other than that, in terms of like financially, I want the biggest fight, which is typically the fight that the fans want to see the most.
Yeah.
I feel it's this Sean O'Malley fight. But again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I really don't care. I just want the biggest fight that they can possibly make so I can maximize my time in the sun, so to speak.
Yeah. And for me, like I obviously spend maybe too much time with this stuff. So maybe the external kind of casual fans, like Sean's obviously got a big pull. He's got a big social media following. My friends who don't watch fighting know who he is. So I mean, he's got that going for him. And I guess I think yesterday you tweeted that you hadn't seen his fight yet. Have you watched it in full?
No, I just landed yesterday and then I went to go. I've been just running nonstop since I hit the ground. Then doing my own podcast this morning, trying to get some content out because my freaking camera guy Jake took the charger for the camera and then left me with 3 dead batteries. I did the podcast. He's like, you should be able to get it up and everything. And with the 2 left batteries on the 2 bars left on the battery, I did the podcast. And then I was unable to get it off the camera because the battery died. And then I was stuck scrambling around. I bought the wrong, like everything that could have gone wrong to get content out the past few days went wrong because he left on Monday. And I just been stranded. And then from there, I've been just trying to figure out ways to get content. So I finally got something up, but it's a little late. And I've been doing interviews all day today. So I haven't had an opportunity to sit down and watch the fights. And I've been just trying to make rounds and just trying to – I just had a lot. It's been super busy. So I'm hoping like today I can watch the entire card in its entirety from the first fight of the night because I'm a fan of the sport. If I could have sat back outside of myself, like pull myself outside of me and got to sit back as a spectator in the crowd and just watch, that would have been so sick. So I'm getting an opportunity to finally watch it today and watch back the entire card because this is what I do. I live, eat, and breathe this stuff. So hopefully I can put on my analyst hat today, take notes on the O'Malley fight with Jan. It wasn't a robbery by any means, so people need to stop using that word because they just, when they say that, it diminishes what the word actually means, like the word cringe and epic. People just say it for anything that they don't understand. Like it's whatever. I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole again. But I want to watch the fight and see how that round 1 should have been scored or how it could have been scored and see like what the argument could be for Jan to win and what the argument could be for O'Malley to win, because I think it was that close of a round and that close of a fight.
Yeah, it's funny. All the fighters think it's easy to be media members until you lose your camera batteries. That I'm kidding. But anyways,
I hammered him for it. It was like, bro, you had one job, one job.
Well, hopefully he reappears soon with them. Just a couple more minutes. I know I've taken up a lot of your time. Would you say though, from what you've seen, that, or just in general, do you think Sean O'Malley is maybe better than you originally expected him to be? Like, did you ever think he'd get to this point where we'd be having a serious conversation about him fighting for the title?
Yeah, 100%. I give people their flowers, man. I like I said, I watch the sport like a fan and like a diehard fan. So I watch it, I break it down on my podcast. I give people credit, even if it's guys that I previously fought. I give them their flowers. I can acknowledge and separate the competitor from the competition itself and make it about them versus it being something that I need to interject my own self into it, if that makes sense. And I always acknowledge, like, Sean has had serious skill. I acknowledge that we don't know how tough he is. We don't know when he's the hammer. When he's the hammer, we know he's really, really good. We didn't know if he becomes the nail and has some pushback. Will he fold? Will he rise to the occasion? Will he push back, or would he just say, you know what, I'm just going to go home and maybe I should stick to fighting lower ranked athletes on the UFC roster? And he showed he belonged. And exactly what I said from the get-go about him. I thought he was skilled, and I thought he could compete with the best guys, because most of these guys in the top of the division, they're strikers, So you give him a striker like a Piotr Jan, I mean, you're giving him exactly what he wants. He's tall for the weight class, like 5'10" or 5'11". He can kickbox his ass off. He's pinpoint accurate. Kind of reminds me of a McGregor with his hands. Like when he's spot on, he's spot on. You give him space, he's going to pick you apart. And he uses his kicks, which I thought McGregor did very, very well in the beginning of his UFC run. And then he kind of got away from it and just trying to be this big boxing guy at 155. And it just didn't really, he hasn't really had the success that he had at 45 for multiple reasons, because of the size and everything. But yeah, Jan's good. I never doubted the guy for a bit. I just wasn't sure of if he could hang with the big boys until he actually goes out there and proves it. And he did. And that checked off a lot of questions for me. And man, to go out there and do that to a guy like Jan, very competitive, back and forth, I don't think anyone could deny his skills, because not too long ago, Jan was the guy that no one would be able to touch. And Sean O'Malley touched him up quite a bit. So you got to give credit where credit's due. And I think O'Malley is as good as he says he is. But when he fights a grappling specialist like myself, like a guy like, I even think if he fought a guy like Ronnie Yaya, he would have problems, bro. I really do. Because guys like that are good at control. He fights a guy like Ricky Simone. He fights a guy like Umar Nurmagomedov, a guy like Jack Shore. I think Marab, I think he's going to run into some problems. And even Cheeto. Cheeto's a good grappler. I think he runs that one back. I think it's picks up where it left off. And if Cheeto gets him down on the ground again, I think it's a bad night for O'Malley. Matchups make fights, styles make fights. And that's why this division is so competitive, because if you get this guy versus this guy, it's a different result versus this guy versus that guy, because of skill sets, and that's why we fight. We get in there, we mix it up. I could be the best guy right now. You give me a certain matchup, it might be more difficult, more challenging, and it might be the guy to beat me. So that's why this division is super hot right now, super competitive. And I'm excited to see what happens for the future of this division and all these other guys.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement that bantamweight's probably the strongest division right now in the UFC, and you're sitting atop of it. Kind of last thing for me, you said in an Instagram post, though, that you need to kind of get your house in order, I think was the word that the phrase that you used. What do you mean by that? I guess, is that like on the business side? Is that mentally? Is that life stuff? Like, I guess that's kind of what you indicated standing between you and coming back, right?
Yeah. First off is management. That's at the forefront. That needs to get in order. Secondly, financially, making sure I don't get caught up with taxes again, which has happened to me 2 years ago. I made a ill-advised decision because I thought I remembered something with buying houses in terms of it being tax deductible, but I had it backwards. I'm not even going to bore people with the details on that. But
sounds awful.
Yeah, so I just over renovated my house, long story short, and I didn't have the cash flow needed because I over renovated a house to pay for whatever. So yeah, I ended up in a not so ideal situation and figured it out. Good thing I'm good with money. I'm not like spending all my money. I grew up in New York, born and raised here. So you have to manage money wisely here. Otherwise, it'll go really, really fast. Taxes, mortgages, whatever. It's just expensive to live here. So if you're not smart, you could lose money really, really fast. So from a financial standpoint, with my investments, my IRAs, and ventures that I want to get sorted out with the rum company and possibly a supplement company and possibly a power bar company, there's a couple of things I really want to get going. And now I can finally have the time to just hit the floor running while the iron is hot. Whether I won or lost, it wouldn't have mattered. I would have taken time anyway to get these ventures going because the fight game is very, very demanding and it's hard to deviate from training camp and a lot of time to work on certain things because I don't really have a point guy that I could go and trust wholeheartedly and be like, this guy won't run off with my money or this guy won't drop the ball and do things too expensively or things like that. So I kind of oversee a lot of things and maybe I'm micromanaging too much. But again, you got to make sure you got the right people in place and all these things. I just need to make sure my house is in order and just take care of all these things so that I could comfortably just focus on fighting before I get back in there and I got too much juggling around in my head, So that's where I'm at right now.
All right, man. Well, I wish you the best of luck and all that. I appreciate you taking nearly half an hour out of your day to chat with us, and congrats on the win. Good luck with everything else. And I regardless if it's Sean or Henry, I think you have some big fights on the horizon, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Looking forward to the next matchup. But for right now, I'm gonna be hanging out. You'll probably catch me on the beach in a couple of weeks.
Well earned, man.